Good morning guys, what's up? So once again, I welcome you to the chemistry classes. You must be happy, right? We were done with the complete chapter in our last class. Like I remember starting with the discussion of atomic structure. We have discussed the complete details about the structure of atom or the chapter atomic structure. Now, having done with all these things, I think today is the best time that we can move on to the question answer sessions, right? So with this note, let me begin up with the very first exercise that I have taken for which is from JEE mains pattern. So you know what I did? I tried to gather around 10 questions from all the previous year JEE mains paper. So let me show you if you want. These are the 10 questions that I have collected. Let us start beginning with the very first question of the series. Now the question says that the Rutherford's experiment which established the nuclear model of the atom used a beam of what? That means he is simply asking us to do the details of Rutherford's experiment. So the Rutherford experiment that was done in order to establish the nuclear model of an atom. Like Rutherford was the person who said that there is a nucleus in the atom, right? So this used a beam of what? So let us first gather the knowledge about Rutherford's model of an atom once again. See guys, if I'm not wrong, we have discussed, right, that in the Rutherford's model of an atom, first of all, we have taken a lead chamber. Now, in the lead chamber, you kept a radioactive atom which was radium. And after that, we have also taken a very thin sheet which was made up of gold. Right? So we used to call it as gold foil. Now you remember, right, that radium was getting disintegrated and it led to the release of positively charged particles. I remember telling you in details that those positively charged particles were helium nuclei. They were not helium atoms. Why they were helium nuclei? Let's see. So we know, right, helium is atomic number 2, 4. So there are 2 protons, 2 electrons and there were 2 neutrons. Right? Protons I am showing with positive, electrons as negative, neutrons as neutral. Now with the release of 2 electrons, we will be left with 2 positive and 2 neutral particles, right? So this was our helium 2 plus. So I remember telling you that the helium 2 plus cation were released and these helium 2 plus cations are nothing but see, it is protons plus neutrons which is the helium nucleus. So a beam of alpha particles, or in other words you can call them a beam of helium nuclei, were released. Let us read out all the options one by one to figure out if there is any correct answer, and if it is, which one is the correct answer. Option number A says beta particles. No guys, never ever we said beta particles. Gamma rays, no. Then the third option says helium atoms. No. Helium atom is He, but I know that alpha particle is positively charged, so not even this. And the fourth one is helium nuclei which impinged on a metal foil and got scattered, and that is the perfect answer for question number first. And hence question number 1 can be written with the correct option as option number D. Okay. Having done with this particular question, now let us move on to the second question. Just give me a second so as to prepare the board. Okay, by that time I can switch on the second question for you. Read out the second question which says that many elements have non-integral atomic masses because. So first of all, he is giving us a fact that so many elements in nature, they are having non-integral atomic masses. Okay, and then he has given us the answer why or which of them. Fine. Let us first of all try to concentrate about chlorine atom. You remember guys, chlorine atom is having 17 protons, and I remember while I was discussing the isotope thing with you, we said that chlorine 35 was one isotope of chlorine and chlorine 1737 was another isotope of chlorine. By the way, what is this 35 and 37? This 35 and 37 stands for mass number or atomic masses, right? The number of protons plus neutrons which are present in an atom. Now see guys, since mass number represents the number of protons plus number of neutrons, so whatever may be the number of proton, whatever may be the number of neutron, but the total number of proton plus neutron will be an integral value. Am I right? Now the main problem is that since Cl35, let us say, might be present in 75% and this might be present 25%. Suppose for example, I have a bucket which is having 100 atoms of chlorine, and then in that bucket the 75 atoms of chlorine will be Cl1735 and the next 25 elements of chlorine will be Cl1737. Right? You remember how we calculated the average atomic mass? So I have written the formula. The average atomic mass was written as the 35, the mass number, into 75 atoms are there. So let us say 75 divided by 100 plus, then the other one is 37 into 25 by 100. Okay, and suppose if you solve it, you will get the answer as 35.5. So in general, we can say that the atomic mass of chlorine which you will be using in questions will be 35.5. But is it correct to say that this is coming because of the number of protons plus neutrons? No, right? So this non-integral, the non-integral mass of any particular element is found out. Why? Because the element is there in the isotopic form. Not only this, I am also very sure because the two isotopes occur in different amount. And since they are occurring in different amount, the atomic mass may be found to be a non-integral value. Right? Let us look at the options. So reading the question once again, many elements have non-integral masses because they have isotopes. Yes, that is correct. Because their isotopes have non-integral masses, this is wrong. See, I have specified this thing, that the two isotopes were having atomic mass of 35 and 37. So these were integral values. Because even if you are talking about isotopes, they must be having some number of protons, some number of neutrons. You sum them together and then only you will get some integral value. Because proton will be an integral number. There can be 2 protons, 3 protons, 20 protons, but there won't be ever 20.1 proton. Right? So the number of protons plus neutrons together will be coming out to be an integral value. So this B option is wrong. Moving on to the third option, the isotopes have different masses. That is correct. So we can simply say that the isotopes are having different masses. This is also correct. The next is the constituents, neutrons, protons and electrons combine to give fractional mass. No guys, I am not even taking into account the masses of protons, neutrons and electrons. I am just taking into account the numbers of protons and neutrons which are present in any atom, so as to call it as atomic masses. Fine? The question was really interesting because many students can get confused in option number D. Right? Many students can get confused in option number B as well. But the correct answer for this particular question is A and C. Okay. So guys, this was about the second question. Now it's a time that we can move on to the third question. So just give me a second once again. Okay, so we have another question, which is question number 3. You can read out the question which is there on the screen. And the question says that Rutherford scattering experiment is related to the size of what? So he is talking about the Rutherford's model of an atom, and when the experiment was done, the size of which thing was found. See, now I'll tell you how students get confused. You know, students like you would have mugged up a formula. So there is a formula like R is equal to n square h square by, so you will be doing like 2R is equal to 2n square h square by 8 pi square m kz e square. In other words, I have seen students writing this formula as R is equal to n square h square by 4 pi square m kz e square. So these people have mugged up the formula, and then they'll be thinking, ma'am, the formula was given by Bohr, so they would have marked Bohr. So this is what? This is the formula of radius of nth orbit of an atom, right? So they'll simply say, ma'am, this was done for an atom. No guys, no. This formula has got no link with this particular question that has been written on board. The question simply is talking about the Rutherford's alpha scattering experiment. And while Rutherford's alpha scattering experiment was done, these kinds of formulas were not taken into consideration. What was done in the Rutherford's model of an atom? See, we have already done it, no? Right now also I explained, you people were to take a lead chamber, keeping a radioactive particle here, which was undergoing disintegration to form alpha particles. Alpha particles were supposed to be positively charged. Then they were allowed to pass through a thin gold foil, right? And finally, you could see that most of the, so what were the postulates? Let's directly come on to the postulates. So the postulates were that most of the alpha particles were moving in the straight line without any deviation. That means too much space in the atom must be empty. But too much space is empty has got no correlation with the size of an atom. No. The second observation was that when the alpha particles are coming, they come and then they get deflected towards with the larger angles. So alpha particles were coming, they were getting deflected at larger angles. Now, why the alpha particles were getting scattered at larger angles? Then also we were saying this is because the nucleus must be positively charged. And since nucleus must be positively charged, the alpha particle which is coming is also having a positive charge. So when positive and positive will interact, then we can say that they will repel each other, and hence they will be moving, so they will be deflecting at larger angles. Okay? But we also had a third observation in our mind. And the third observation said that when the alpha particles were moving in the straight line, only a few alpha particles were such that they were coming back by an angle of 180 degree. Okay, so all the alpha particles were coming back at an angle, like very few alpha particles were coming back at an angle of 180 degree. And when the alpha particles came at an angle of 180 degree, like only 1 out of 20,000 atoms, alpha particles were coming back. That means the space occupied by the nucleus is really very small, because if the space occupied by nucleus would have been big enough, then many of the alpha particles would have come back. but only 1 or 2 are coming back. That means the nucleus is occupying a very small volume. Or in other words, I can say that the nucleus is really very small. So I have a so the nucleus present in an atom is really very small, and hence I can simply say that the Rutherford scattering experiment is related to the size of nucleus. It didn't say anything about the size of electron, neutron, nothing. Moreover, it didn't say anything about the size of atom. Confusing point was the students could have got confused in these two things. These were okay that they were not discovered that time, but so don't consider the atom. Atom was nowhere it was said that the atom is big enough. So maybe it was very clear that the nucleus is small, so maximum space is empty. Okay, so thus saying that question number 3 has got option number A as the correct option. Fine? Okay. So having done with this category of question also, okay guys, all these questions that I am writing on board, all of them have been taken from past year JEE paper. So don't think that these questions are too simple that I should not have asked them. They are really good questions because they have been asked in past year JEE Mains or AIEEE paper. Now moving on to the next question, which is question number 4. Let's see what the question is saying. The question says that the correct set of 4 quantum numbers for the valence electrons of rubidium atom, and the atomic number is given to be 37. So let us simply leave everything. Let us not read out the options. Let us simply start doing. Okay, by the way, let's first read the question and try to figure out a trick. So these are N, L, M, S. Fine, they will always be given in the order N, L, M, S. Now see, when I am saying the atomic number is 37, so let me start writing down. The electronic configuration will be 1s2, after 1s2 it will be 2s2, 2p6. Okay, so how many have been done? We are done with 10. So 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, then we have 3s2, then we have 3p6, after 3p6 we have 4s2. So 2 plus 6, 8 plus 2, 10. So 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 4s2. After 4s, it is the 3d which starts filling up. So in 3d, we know, right, there can be a maximum of 10 electrons. So we got 10 here, we got 10 here. And then put 10 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it is 3d10. Another 10 are done. After 3d10, it should be 4p. So this is 4p6 and 4p6 after that. So we are done with 6 more. We are just left with 1, that is 5s. Okay, read it again. So 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 4s2, 3d10, 4p6, 5s, 1. Okay, making it a total of 10 plus 10, 20 plus 10, 30 plus 6, 36 plus 1, 7. Okay, now he is saying you need to tell the correct value of all the 4 quantum numbers, and my main electron is 5s. This is the valence electron. So we need to tell the quantum numbers for this 5s1 orbital. Let me remove all that because we finally need only 5s1 orbital. So when I am talking about the 5s1 orbital, What should be the value of n? For sure you will say, ma'am, 5, right? Since it is s orbital, so the value of L will be 0. If the value of L is 0, the value of M will also be 0, and the value of S can be either plus half or minus half. So these are the values that I'll be getting. 500 half or 500 minus half. Let's see. 500 half may be correct. 510 half, not at all correct because L is 0, that is for sure. 511 half, again not at all correct. 501 half. Guys, when L is 0, M is supposed to be 0. So even this can't be the option. The only correct option for this particular question will be option number A. Okay? Okay, so finally we discussed 4 questions. Now I think we should be moving on to the next question, which is question number 5. Let's see let's see if we have an easy or a difficult question. Whatever the question is, but it's really nice. Let us discuss. The question says, which of the following is the energy of possible excited state of hydrogen? We just need to figure out the energy of possible excited state of hydrogen. The values are 13.6, minus 6.8, minus 3.4 and plus 6.8 electron volts. Okay. You remember while I was teaching you the theory about hydrogen atom, I used one very simple statement that the energy of an electron in the hydrogen atom is minimum closest to the nucleus. Is minimum when it is closest to the nucleus. However, the energy starts increasing. The energy starts increasing and approaches the maximum value. However, the energy starts increasing and approaches the maximum value of 0. So the maximum value of the energy of an electron can be taken to be 0. And this value is attained at infinity. And this value is attained at infinity. Right? What does this mean? This simply means that if there is nucleus in the center, okay, and suppose the electron is at infinite distance from the nucleus, you might not be able to see it, right? And yes, I have drawn it like this so that you can't see it. Can you see infinity? No, man. So this is what I'm saying. No, the electron is so far away that even I can't see that. So this is what is infinity. And when there is infinite distance between the electron and the nucleus, that means there is no interaction taking place. And when there is no interaction taking place, we say that it is at energy which is equal to 0. Okay. Now just see, suppose I am starting from the infinity. I can see infinity, you can't. Suppose I am taking the electrons and it is moving towards the nucleus, 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 nucleus. Now you would have started seeing the electron, right? So if the electron is coming close to the nucleus, then there will be attractive force. And we know that the attractive force must be having a negative value. Okay, so 0 was at infinity. Now it is coming slowly close to the nucleus. And this you know, the energy of the first orbit will be equal to minus 13.6 electron volt. Right? So if the electron will be in the first orbit, the energy will be minus 13.6 electron volt. It cannot come close. However, if it starts going above, the energy value should decrease. It should decrease and it should become close to 0. So it should be approaching 0. Right? So let us just guess any value. So this is minus 13.6, minus 11.6, minus 9.6, blah, 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 and it should go to 0. Right? Now look at the options. Options are plus 13.6. I said no. The maximum value that you can approach is 0. So this cannot be the answer. Next possible answer is, let's say plus 6.8. No yaar, I said maximum is 0 means 0. So even this can't be the answer. Now we are left with two options. Either the energy can be this or energy can be this. Because both of them are lying in the scale between 0 to minus 13.6. Okay. Now do you remember one more point that I have told you? That see, if these are the prescribed energy levels, the electron can either be found in n is equal to 1, n is equal to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and so on. That means the electron can never be found out somewhere here. This is no energy level, and if this is no energy level, electron cannot be found out there. Right? So the electrons, the energy of the electron should be an integral multiple of n. Right? Now listen to me carefully. The energy of nth orbital in the case of hydrogen atom is given as minus 13.6 divided by n square electron volt. Okay. Now try to put these values. Suppose you are putting minus 3.4. So minus 3.4 will be minus 13.6 divided by n square. And if you solve it, you will get n value as 2. Which is a good answer. N is equal to 2 is appreciable, right? However, if I would have asked you to substitute another value, which is minus 6.8. Keep on doing, you will not get any integral value. You won't be able to get an integral value of n, and thus making sure that the correct answer for this particular question will be option number C and not option number B. Fine? So guys, this was really a good question. You can mark such kind of questions to be repeated in the exam again. Note it down whatever is written on the board so that finally we can move on to our next question. So note it down guys so that we can now continue. So guys, done with the fifth question. Half of the questions are done, right? So you must be feeling nice. Let us move on to the other half of the questions, and in that series, let me give you question number 6. I am a bad teacher. I would not have given you an easy question for sure. So question number 6 says that, oh, it's not an easy question. So you should be like, oh, ma'am is bad. See, the question says that the kinetic energy of an electron, so what is given to us, I just need to know. An electron is given to me. I need to figure out its kinetic energy. In the second Bohr's orbit of hydrogen atom and second Bohr's orbit. See guys, so whenever you go to market and then your mom will start shouting from back end, go get this also, get a packet of this, get this, get this, get this. So you prepare this checklist, right? This is all is to be taken from market. Similarly, while you are practicing the questions at your home, try to make it a habit of picking out something important, writing it separately, because it really helps you understand the question and it really helps you getting the answer quickly. So just imagine when the question is given, it's your mom shouting, go get this, go get this, go get this. So it will be really helpful. Okay, so the kinetic energy of an electron we need to find out. Oh, one more thing is given to me, that A naught is the Bohr's radius of first orbit of hydrogen. So first hydrogen atom's orbit, and the radius is given to be A naught, right? We need to find the kinetic energy of the electron. Guys, but before I proceed on to the question, see, all the questions are given in the terms of A naught, A naught, A naught, right? So we need to bring this A naught in our final answer. Do whatever best possible, but this A naught should be there in the answers, okay? Now see how to proceed. We know kinetic energy will be equal to half mv square. Am I right? M is the mass of electron, v is the velocity with which electron is moving. Okay? Can I do one thing? Can I say divide and multiply by m? So when you are dividing and multiplying it with m, oh nice, so we'll get half. I can write it to be mv whole square divided by 2m, right? Now see, as soon as I see this word mv, one very good obvious thing comes to my mind, and that is the statement which was given by Bohr, according to which we say that the angular momentum of the electron moving around the nucleus is an integral multiple of h by 2 pi, right? So that is mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi. From here, can you get the value of mv, which is nh by 2 pi? So mv is equal to nh by 2 pi r. So keep mv on the left hand side, you will get nh by 2 pi r, right? Now we know this r can also be written as nh by 2 pi a, where a may be the radius of nth orbit of the hydrogen atom, right? Now guys, you do agree, right? Rn is equal to R naught into, so what is the relationship between this? Rn is equal to R naught into what? Into n square by z or into z square by n? This was the question. So Rn is equal to R naught into n square by z. Okay, you need to remember. Similarly, I can say radius of any nth orbit will be equal to radius of first orbit into n square divided by z. Okay, so for hydrogen atom we know that z value is 1. So a naught, so we will have an is equal to a naught into n square. Am I right? Let us substitute it here. Put the value of an. nh divided by 2 pi a naught into n square. And this is the value of mv that we have obtained. Clear? Now try to substitute the value of mv here. Let me remove this. And we know the second Bohr's orbit I will be talking about. See carefully. We'll get kinetic energy is equal to mv whole square. nh to be divided by 2 pi a naught into n square whole square to be divided by 2m. Am I right? Now moving further, n square h square divided by, so 2m will go in the, so no, 2m will not go anywhere. So it's just n square h square to be divided by 4 pi square a naught square n raised to the power 4 multiplied by 2m. Fine? If I ask you to solve it further, n square and n raised to the power 4 get cancelled and you will get n square. Okay? Start substituting the value. H square to be divided by 4 pi square a naught square into 2 into m. What is the value of n? N is 2. So 2 into 2, 4. So finally what you will be getting? H square divided by, guys see, 4 into 2, 8. 8 into 4, 32. Pi square A naught square into m. Try and see if this matches the options. So one is h square by 4 pi square. We do not have 4 in the denominator. H square by 16 pi square. No. H square by 32 pi square m A naught square. Yes, we got the answer, and thus I can say option number C is the correct option for question number 6. Fine. This was a really good question. One more thing, the step. This step is really very important. This step and this step. These two steps are the crux of the question. You should remember this, and this will be used in other questions as well. Fine. Now let us move on to the next question. But before that, I need a minute or so from you. So guys, now we are left with 3 or 4 other questions, and let's see what is there being said while we'll be talking about question number 7. You might be thinking, ma'am, it's again a lengthy question, but guys, this is really an easy question. The question says, if nitrogen atom had electronic configuration 1s7. So nitrogen atom is atomic number 7. Let's say the electronic configuration is 1s7. Okay. Now he is saying it would have lower energy than that of the normal ground state electronic configuration. So if normal ground state electronic configuration we ask, it should be 1s2, 2s2, 2p3. I agree. Now the question is, because this time the electrons will be closer to the nucleus, but still 1s7 is not observed because it will violate what? Guys, see, this is a very simple question. If I am saying, let us agree to his statement that here 2 electrons are in 1s, 2 electrons are in 2s, 3 electrons are in 2p, right? You start going away from the nucleus and the energy will increase, right? So if you talk about this electronic configuration 1s2, 2s2, 2p3, the energy of the electrons in this configuration should be a higher value. So why don't we say that the 1s orbital that I have should have 7 electrons? Okay, let us assume it has 7. Then what's the problem? You know, right? For 1s, all the 7 electrons which are there, n value is 1, L value is 0 because it is s orbital, m value will be 0, right? Now we are having just 2 values of spin. Either the spin can be plus half or the spin can be minus half. So 2 of the electrons I can enter like this. What should be the third electron? The third electron should be having which spin? Because I know according to Pauli's exclusion principle, no 2 electrons, if I am drawing the third electron, no 2 electrons can have the same set of all the 4 quantum numbers. But I am left with no option. Either I have to draw plus half or I have to draw minus half. If I draw plus half, it will match here. If I draw minus half, it will match here. And thus, we can say that no more than 2 electrons can be present in any orbital. Because according to Pauli's exclusion principle that has been marked as option number C, only a maximum of 2 electrons can be kept in an orbital, and both the 2 electrons should be of opposite spin. Okay, and also the Pauli's exclusion principle says that there is no possibility that more than that 2 electrons can have the same set of all the 4 quantum numbers. But if I take this case of 7 electrons in one orbital, then this will be same, this will be same, this will be same, and forcefully you will make S also same, and thus it will be against the Pauli's exclusion principle. Fine. So option number C will be again the correct option for question number 7th. Okay. Let us now move on to the next question, which is our question number 8. But before that, again, I want you to relax for a minute maybe so that you can concentrate on question number 8 properly. Moving on to question number 8. The question number 8 says that the orbital angular momentum of an electron in 2s orbital is. We need to talk about orbital angular momentum. Guys, you remember we have done the formula for orbital angular momentum of an electron, which was h by 2 pi under root L plus 1, and this can also be written as h cross under root L plus 1, right? Now you are talking about a 2s orbital. So when you talk of 2s orbitals, you are well clear that the value of L will be 0. So if the value of L is 0, substitute it here. H cross under root 0 into 0 plus 1. Yeah, under root of 0 is 0. Multiply 0 with anything is 0. So overall final answer will be 0. See, JEE people are not that bad. They will not ask you to do such bad calculations. They have written a very small answer as 0, and that's the correct answer. Okay, easy one, right? So if you would have done the formula, you would have done this question also very quickly. Now what to do next is to come on to the second last question of the series, which is question number 9th. So be ready for 2 more questions. We are gonna study question number 9th and question number 10th. See what's there in question number 9th. Question number 9 says that which of the following set of quantum numbers represent an impossible arrangement? So this clearly says I am talking about impossible arrangement. That means which of them is not possible. That means you need to find out which of them is incorrect. So be clear, write it somewhere that he is asking incorrect option. Okay. Let's start with the first one where he is saying n is equal to 3. So just start writing by yourself. When n is equal to 3, can you say that ma'am L will be 0, 1, 2? When L is 0, can you say M is 0? When L is 1, can you say M will be minus 1, 0, 1? And when L is 2, can you say M to be minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2. Right? Now see, read out the first option. N3, L2, M minus 2. Let's see. N3, L2, M minus 2, and the spin also plus half. All are correct? So this is correct option. Don't say, ma'am, we got the answer and this is the answer. No, yaar. I said 3 times. Incorrect he is asking. So first figure out the incorrect, then only mark the answer. So first is not our answer. First is the correct statement but not the correct answer. Next is n is equal to 4. So see, n is equal to 4. Can you say L is 0, 1, 2, 3? Now don't do randomly. He is saying N4, L0, M0 and further S is equal to plus half. Clear? So this is also correct but not the correct answer. Moving on to the third part. The third part says n is equal to 3. So let's do here. When n is 3, what will be the possible value of L? 0, 1, 2. When L is 0, m will be 0. When L is 1, m will be minus 1, 0, 1. And when L is 2, m will be minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2. Option says N3, okay, okay, L2, okay, okay, m minus 3. How can this be possible? When the value of L is 2, m can be only minus 2, 2, 2. So there is no point of getting minus 3. So this is the incorrect option and hence the answer to our question. Clear? Okay. Finally, I will be presenting the last question for you people. Now, I will not be solving it, but I want first you people should try out the question. So, let's see the question. And now you will be saying, when you want us to try out, genuinely you would have given it a difficult question. For you, every question was like easy, right? But oh my god, now you'll be like, you are bad, we don't want to do the question. It's such a lengthy question, right? Let's see, calm down, let's see. Question number 10 states that the quantum numbers plus half and minus half for the electron spin represent what? Guys, they represent the quantum numbers only. See, the quantum numbers plus half and minus half for representing the spin of electron represent what? They are quantum numbers only, no? Let's read out the options. It says, okay, by the way, you know one more thing, right? We generally say that the electron can spin in the clockwise direction as well as the electron can spin in the anti-clockwise direction. Fine, but according to physics, if you do the chapter rotation, dynamics and all, there you will find if the electron is spinning in the clockwise direction, you will do a set of questions, you will do a set of derivations to get the answer for the spin of electron. If you do the similar derivations for anti-clockwise direction, you will have a set of derivations to finally figure out the spin of electron. But in chemistry, in quantum mechanics, if I am saying one is having plus half, one is having minus half, it just means that these are the representations I have given to represent the quantum numbers. That's it. Nothing else. No physics calculation involved here. Let's start reading down the options. It says the rotation of electron in clockwise and anti-clockwise direction respectively. I said, okay, that's a presumption, but it has got nothing to do with the calculations. If you calculate, you might be getting a particular value of spin, but not plus half and minus half. Okay, so this is not the correct option. Second says rotation of the electron in anti-clockwise and clockwise direction respectively. Again, no, because he has just done the vice versa. Third, the magnetic movement of the electron. No, that is wrong. The magnetic moment of the electron is not represented. The fourth, two quantum mechanical spin states which have no classical analog. That is correct. This is what I am saying. If you do the classical theory according to physics, you will not get the values plus half and minus half. So this plus half and minus half are just two numbers which are given for the representation of spin of electron and thus showing the quantum numbers. This has got nothing to do with the classical physics. Okay. Guys, this was although the last question and we have got the last option also as the correct answer, but this question was really an important question which has been asked in JEE Mains. Okay. So with this question, I think we are done with the topic for today where we were discussing the JEE Mains pattern questions. Now you would have got an idea of what kind of questions are generally asked in exam. And I think you must have got the confidence also that maybe not all of them, but many of them you will be able to do by yourself. right? So for further things, you need to practice the questions, take more questions from the modules that have been provided to you, and thus you can practice doing lots of questions and come up with the, if you have some doubts, you can come up to us. So till that time, take care. Bye-bye.